What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I would like to welcome you all to another edition of Wayne's Perspective, where we operate in discipline, decency, integrity, and respect. All right. Before I get started, I just want to wish everyone a happy Sunday. Currently in the Richmond area, Richmond, Virginia, that is the 804 area. It is May 5th, 2024, 2:57 p.m. So I hope everyone is doing okay. Time is continuing to move by fast for all of us, and we're just taking every day one day at a time. As far as me, I've had quite the day today. I'm not going to go too much into that because I want to get this video out. I've been thinking about it all day, even in the midst of my up and down day. But other than that, I'm doing just fine. Just, taking things one day at a time and just doing things the best way I know how. So, with all that being said, we're going to go right into it now. As you can see by the title, I am going to touch on some recent happenings regarding Kendrick Lamar, Rick Ross, Drake, and J. Cole. But before I get to that, I just want to talk briefly about hip hop beef. When I think of hip hop beef and anything related to that, the first things that come to mind is Cool Mo D versus Busy B, LL versus Cannabis, KRS-One versus MC Shan, even 50 Cent versus Ja Rule, Ice Cube versus NWA, and of course, my personal favorite, Nas and Jay Z. And even though these beefs may have led to, competition, and controversy, music, in the case of diss songs and things like that, there was always this competitive edge where the people involved were striving to be the best in their field. And also got to throw in Tupac and Biggie. That was a beef. Unfortunately, that beef led to violent consequences, which is why two of the greatest artists to ever live are no longer here with us today. So, hip hop beefs over the years, no matter how legit, they always had that aura of competition. And I'm talking about beefs from the 80s and the 90s, even the early 2000s. So, over the years, that art, as well as all other arts when it comes to hip hop, all of that has been lost. And I think we're far past the point where we're going to get that competitive edge back. Now, also, I do recognize that there is a Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef that's going on now. Now, I haven't heard any of the diss tracks or whatever. I'm not interested in them, and I know you're probably thinking, "Well, Wayne, why are you going to comment on it if you're not interested in anything that's going on?" Oh, trust me, at the end, everything is going to come full circle. I have my thoughts, but I just wanted to get on and talk about this. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, I'm going to start with the first one, Drake. Okay. Now, Drake, I've never been a fan of this guy. I've heard that So Far Gone mixtape from what 2009 or 2010. It was all right. I mean, the guy was never my cup of tea, but he had some catchy songs and he had some slick lines here and there. He even did a song with Jay-Z um back in the day. I think it was in 2009 or 2010. That was catchy. You know, I can't think of the name right off the top of my head. But it was very good. But other than that, I was never a fan of this guy. And even on my old blog, I did a review of one of his albums. I can't think of the name on the top of my head either, but that was a request because if it wasn't a request, I probably would have never given it the time of day. But other than that, Drake, I've never been a fan. And one of the main reasons I've never been a fan of his is that he's always struck me as a guy who always tries to, bring it like he's hard or bring it like he's aggressive or something like that, trying to act like a street cat, but on the low, he's probably softer than 10,000 marshmallows, man. And I'm not trying to, denigrate him or anything like that, but he's not no hard dude. He's never given me that impression. And every time he tried to act like that, it just made me step far back away from him. So that's why I'm not a fan of his, then and now. He's not no street smart, aggressive cat. And like I said, every time he tried to act like he was hard or something like that, I just shook my head. There was one song from way back when. I need to stop saying way back when because, as far as I'm concerned, these when I'm going to be talking about mostly it's like stuff that took place within the last what maybe 5 to 10 years or something like that. But there was one song from a few years back. I can't think of the name of it again, But in that song, he said something along the lines of, "I might catch a body like that," and I'm like, dude, you ain't catching no bodies. All right, let's keep that clear. There's nothing gangster or hardcore or aggressive about you. You know, so that's why I'm not a fan of his, and still to this day, I'm not a fan. And if anybody tries to recommend that I check this out, I'm going to politely decline because I'm not interested. And plus, his association with Lil Wayne, that didn't do him any favors either because I'm not a fan of Lil Wayne. Oh, and speaking of Lil Wayne, let me pivot a little bit and let me talk about him because I've been meaning to share this for a while. Now, Lil Wayne, even though we share the same name in this regard, because my family members call me Lil Wayne, but not due to any association with the rapper. You know, I'm not a fan of this guy, and I'm going to explain. I'm gonna go into this one before I continue on and go into J. Cole next. So, Lil Wayne, I remember him as far back as the quote unquote classic Cash Money days. Dating back to 400 Degrees, Chopper City in the Ghetto. Guerrilla Warfare, and that right there, that's pretty much Cash Money at its peak. Yeah, I remember that. 1998 going into 1999. That was the peak of Cash Money Records. Because those basically are the three best albums to come from that label. If I'm forgetting one, pardon me, but as far as I'm concerned, when I think of Cash Money in their prime, those three albums come to mind. So speaking of albums, that brings us to Lil Wayne. So of course, after Guerrilla Warfare in '99, we got The Block Is Hot. Now, most people who know me know that I can't stand that album, and that's on a short list of albums that I hate. That album did nothing for me. I mean, I can't stand that album, y'all. And Loud Pipes, one of the worst songs I ever heard. But that's neither here nor there. Um, I think I heard Lights Out one time, but I never had any interest in checking it out again. I never heard 500 Degrees because I was never interested. But now here's where the interesting stuff comes in at. Now, that first Carter album, I'll admit it was good. I believe he had a song on there called either I think Hey DJ, produced by Manny Fresh. I like that. And the album was decent, and it showed that okay, this guy may have some potential. Because let's keep it clear, he was probably on the lesser end of the hot boys. Juvenile was number one. I think BG was number two, and Turk, I guess you could say was a distant number three, and then Lil Wayne was just, along for the ride. But but that first Carter album showed the potential, and then that brings me to the sequel, the Carter Two. Now, this isn't saying much, but the Carter 2 was Lil Wayne's best album. That's his classic. Okay, if you want to take it there, okay. That was a good album. And the Mob, that song, that's the best thing he's ever done. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on you know, that. What you think Lil Wayne's best song ever is, or his best album. But that song, The Mob, that's kind of an epic. And I've always said that that's the best thing that he's ever done, beat wise and lyrically. Nothing he's done before or since can top that, as well as nothing he's done before or since can top that second Carter album. I mean, it was pretty good. I even owned it at one time, but I sold it. And then also around the time he dropped that, he also dropped a Dedication 2 mixtape with DJ Drama. That was good. Remember the Canon remix with, I think it was Willie the Kid, Freeway, Lil Wayne was on it, and I think a few other people, but that was a dope remix. So when I heard those two projects, I was like, okay, I was like, all right. And then when I revisit them years later, I came to the conclusion that had he stuck with that style and just mainly changed things up a bit, as the years went on, maybe I would be a fan of his. But that didn't happen. So from there, he came out with the Carter 3, which is one of the most overrated albums I've ever heard. In 2008, it won a Grammy for Best Rap Album, and that year Nas should have got it, but that's a different story. It was just such an overrated piece of work, and the fact that it got a Grammy for Best Rap Album and it moved all those units, I mean, I still can't believe it. A Millie was okay. I I think he had a song called what, Mr. Officer or Miss Officer with Bobby Valentino. I didn't like that. Um, Lollipop was not good. I don't think that was on another album. I think, but Lollipop was not a good song. Um, I remember Mr. Carter with Jay Z was kind of hyped a bit, but it was merely okay. But overall, that album was a real overrated piece of work, and I just never saw the hype around it. And from there, he changed his style up. He became more commercial, and then just any any cause, for the lack of a better word, of him being in the line of one of all-time greats. I've never saw it. I don't see it. There's nothing about Lil Wayne that screams greatest of all time, not even in the South, because the greatest of all time from the South, that honor goes to Scarface. Lil Wayne is not the all-time great of anything. So um everything else that came from him, I was just never interested, and I never saw the appeal. I never checked out the Rebirth album, and I think that was supposed to be a rock album. I can only imagine how that sound. I never checked out I'm Not a Human Being, and I think he had two installments of that. um he also had a No Ceilings mixtape, and I remember back at an old job I had, that was the talk of the break room at one point. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what is all the hype about? And of course, people saying that he ripped the Def Auto Tune beat from Jay Z. He did that beat better than Jay Z did. I disagreed then, and I disagree now. I mean, he did all right for what he had, but as far as him, quote unquote, murking that beat better than Jay Z did, I disagreed. Now, last but not least, I did have that Carter 4 album, and again, it was a mess. I remember 6 foot, 7 foot with Corey Guns. It was okay for its time, but I mean, it was. I mean, I wouldn't revisit it. And then, of course, on top of that, he had that nonsense "How to Love." Y'all remember that? So overall, I say all that to say that I've never been a fan of his like that. The potential was there, but you know it was gone. And like I said, had he stuck with that Carter 2 slash dedication 2 style, maybe I'll be having a different discussion right now. But he came out with Carter 3 and never looked back. And since then, I haven't checked out anything that he's come out with after Carter 4. Just not interested. So enough about Lil Wayne. Let's move on. Okay, J. Cole. Now, J. Cole is okay. I remember his first album. Let me check some right quick. What was that first album? Let me see. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Let me take a look at this. Take a look at a little something here. Okay, Cold World, the sideline story. This came out September 27th, 2011. Now, I did buy this from Target like a few months after it came out. I no longer have the album. I sold it. Either I sold it or I traded it. I bought that around the same time I bought what's his name? One fourth of Slaughterhouse. Man, it's escaping me. Was it Joel Ortiz, the free agent album? Um I bought those on the same day. Now the Joel Ortiz album, I still own that. I haven't played in a while, but I still have that. Now, I thought the album was okay, but it wasn't anything that I was going to revisit. And ironically, Drake was on that album and Jay-Z was on that album too, but I never had any interest in it after that. Now, after that, what did he drop after that? Born Center in 2013. Now, I did do a review of that on my old blog, and I did edit it a little bit and I put it on my current medium.com page. I am going to put a link in of that um in the description box so y'all can check that out and see what my thoughts were. And ironically, Kendrick Lamar was on that album. And my thing was the album, it was good in spots, but most of that he it's like he was dedicating most of that to the women. Now let me be clear. I have no issues with songs for the females, but I do have an issue when artists go overboard with that, and I think he went overboard with that on that Born Center album because, like I said, after that he lost me, you know. But like I said, I'm gonna put the link to that in the description box so you can check out my thoughts on that. Now after that, he did drop, and I'm gonna stop it right here as far as J. Cole. Well, no, let me go back a bit because it was it was either between 2012 and 2014, which is when the 2014 Forest Hills Drive album came out, where he came out with this song called, excuse me, he came out with this song called Let Nas Down. And I'm not going to research or go into the origins behind that one song, but I felt like he was pandering because if my memory serves me correctly, I don't think Nas even responded to that. I was like, man, you're doing a little bit too much, you know. And I only played that song once, and I was like, all right, man, enough, you know. So now that may be me being biased towards Nas just a little bit, but I was like, okay, man. So then the last thing that I've heard from him was that, like I said, the 2014 Forest Hills Drive album. Again, it was okay. And it also came a point where he started becoming more seasoned behind the boards and stuff like that, started doing his own production. So man, I gave him his props on that, you know. But I was just never a fan like that, you know. Now, hey, if there's something from him that you all feel I need to check out and you think I would like, let me know in the comments. You know, we can always have a discussion. I'm always up for a reasonable recommendation, quote unquote. But other than that, he's okay. I won't go out on a limb and say I don't like him, you know, but I'm not a fan like that, you know, if that makes sense, you know. He's okay, you know, he's got a good ear for beats, he's talented, and he does his thing. But other than that, he don't do it for me like that. But based on any recommendations y'all might throw my way, that may change, you know. And could it change? Yes, but we'll see. And speaking of changes, that brings me to the next one of the equation, Rick Ross. All right, now let me tell y'all a story. Um, when I first heard him, I was not impressed at all. And we talking about when he first came out with Hustling, um, and what else did he drop? Um, Push It to the Limit, that song. You know, those two songs from that first album, Port of Miami, I was not a fan. And even when he came out with what's that song? The Boss with T Pain, you know, I still wasn't a fan. And this was also around the time when I heard about, you know, the controversy with him being a corrections officer and all of that. So, you know, so I was like, no, he's not my cup of tea. But I started to give him a chance, and I kind of had this love-hate relationship, quote unquote, where he won me over, and then after a while, it's like, no, the controversy is too much. But then you got into, just listen to the music, and that's what I did. And from there, I did become a fan. I got all of his albums on CD, y'all. Every last Rick Ross album I have. I have some of his mixtapes downloaded, and I have the first two Maybach Music compilation albums, Self-Made 1 and 2. I don't think I have three. I think I just have 1 and 2. So yeah, on that strength, you can say I'm a fan, and mainly, the guy has an ear for beats. I mean, his ear for beats is like crazy. I mean, he knows some good lavish production when he hears it. And of course, he got mad chemistry with a lot of people I like, and that includes Nas. I mean, that chemistry he has with Nas is crazy. I mean, and that one time I was like, it's downright scary, because the production is one thing, but they just mesh well together. Now I don't know if the majority of that is on Nas or what, but they got great chemistry. He got good chemistry with Jay-Z, and a couple other people. So I just wanted to say that. And also I did a project on him called Boss of All Bosses. I'm gonna put that link in the description as well, and you can check that out. And let me know if you want me to do a project on my YouTube channel on that. I'll see how that turns out, but I'm gonna put that link in the description box as well. So I bring Rick Ross up here because apparently he's having some issues with Drake and all that. I checked out a video on Pink Book Lessons channel, and by the way, shout out to her. Go follow her if you haven't done so already. Um, he had an issue with one of his planes, which looked nice. I didn't even know the dude had a plane, but okay. And it seems like after he experienced such a traumatic incident, I don't think anyone was hurt or anything like that. What people called him out on was the fact that as soon as he got some time on his hands, he not only went on social media, but he was calling out Drake, calling him white boy and all this other stuff. Okay, so I'm not going to get too far into that, but I'll just say that those actions were lame as hell. I think other people tend to agree with that sentiment too. So I don't know if this is going to extend to wax. I'm old school, wax. I don't know if it's going to extend to that point, but we shall see. And it's interesting because they did quite a few songs together. Remember Ashton Martin music with Chrisette Michelle? I think Drake was on Dice Pineapples with Wale also, so it's interesting, I'm not sure if Drake has even responded yet, but we shall see. So on the list of things to have a beef about or whatever, who knows? And most people these days will probably say Rick Ross is kind of clout chasing because let's keep it real. Drake is kind of hotter than Rick Ross is, you know, and who knows? I think most people would say J. Cole is higher than Rick Ross is, but you just never know. And as far as I'm concerned, Rick Ross, man, I don't know what to say, outside of everything that I just said. And by the way, on a side note, I did check out the joint album he did with Meek Mill. Again, it was okay, but it's not anything I'm going to revisit. And I didn't add that to my collection. I was going to, but after I listened to it, I was like, no, I'm good. You know, it's just one of those albums where if you listen to it once, you'll see what it is, and you're not going to have any reason to revisit it after the fact. So that's that on Rick Ross. So like I said, I wasn't a fan at first. Then after a few tries, he won me over. So, but other than that, the thing with Drake is it is kind of lame. Okay, so I'll say that. And last but not least, this brings me to Mr. K. Dot himself, Kendrick Lamar. Now, I got a story about him. So, um, when he came out with Section 80, I remember somebody recommended I check it out. I listened to it, I wasn't impressed. So then when 2012 came, he was getting more out there, like, you know, attention in the mainstream and stuff like that. He was becoming a name. So I was like, what? Let me go back and revisit Section 80. And lo and behold, on that second listen, it hit me. You know how them albums, some albums, and it's not a lot with me, but certain albums, they didn't hit you the first time, but the second time they hit you, it's like something was missing, but you can't quite put your finger on it. So I was like, okay, all right, so he's good. So I ended up adding that to my collection. The legit iTunes version, not I don't think it was ever released on CD, and I didn't download it by other means. But so so I was like, okay, so that had me looking forward to Good Kid, Mad City. So I did add that to my collection, not the CD, by the way. I got it on iTunes, and it was a good album, and I think I have that. I think I did a review on that on my old blog, and I transferred that with some edits to my medium.com page. If I have that, I am going to put that in the description box as well. So y'all got quite a few works that's going to be in the description box. So stay tuned for that. So I played the album, and ironically, Drake was on that album, you know, and I thought it was good. And I believe he was on a song called Poetic Justice, if my memory serves me correctly, which was a good song. It had the Janet Jackson samples in it. It was all right. But I only played that album once, and that was when I bought it. And I want to say I played it again to do a review. I think I did. But other than that, if my memory is correct, I only did one listen to that. And I never played it again afterwards because it just didn't grab me for a repeat visit. Now, where I started having issues with Kendrick Lamar was when people started the damn Nas comparisons. Now, I'll admit I'm biased. there's no comparison to Nas. And the only person that can really come close to Nas in any regard is Jay-Z. And that may be biased because Jay-Z is my number two favorite MC of all time. And by the way, if you haven't checked out my Ultimate Nas project and my Jay-Z projects, be sure to check those out. So continuing on. So then what was getting me was that the Nas comparison started. You had people hailing him as, is this the next Nas? And is Good Kid, Mad City, the new Illmatic? All of that, got under my skin. Cause I'm like, no way. And then just people started overpraising him like he was the second coming of Nas or something. Like, no, he's good. He's talented. He's good at what he does, but he's not the second coming of Nas. And Good Kid, Mad City is not this generation's version of Illmatic. It's not. I never liked those comparisons at all. So that's where my issues came. The brother is talented, but people tended to overrate him like all hell. Which reminds me, that brings me to his next album, To Pimp a Butterfly. I played that. And again, I added to my collection, via iTunes. I played it once and that was it. I never had a desire to revisit it. It just didn't grab me like that. I do remember how good King Kunta was. I remember that. But other than that, no. And then the comparisons came again. People started. I don't know if this was just in the circles that I was in terms of talking about hip hop or what, but people then start saying that To Pimp a Butterfly was the new It Was Written. I'm like, yo, I mean, this guy is not the new Nas. To Pimp a Butterfly is not the next version of It Was Written. It just isn't. And it just had me, in my feelings a little bit more because they was overpraising him, overpraising the albums. I mean, no, you cannot compare respectively Good Kid, Mad City to Illmatic. You can't compare, you damn sure can't compare To Pimp a Butterfly to It Was Written. You just can't do it. And years after the fact, at least if I had something to say about it, we're still going to be talking about Illmatic. Illmatic celebrated 30 years a few weeks ago. It Was Written is going to be turning 30 in 2026. So after the fact, we still going to be talking about those albums. Is anybody still talking about Good Kid, Mad City, and To Pimp a Butterfly now? You know, I mean, let me know. Let me know in the comments. All right. Let me know if I should revisit those years after they drop. Good luck getting me to do that, but we can always have a discussion here. So then that brings me to 2013. I believe this was the year, and I'm going to put the link in the description box regarding this because I talked about this as well. There was one point in 2013 where Kendrick Lamar just out of nowhere dropped this verse, and he was calling out the names of many people, and I think he did call out J. Cole. He called out Drake. I think he called out Pusha T. He called out a few people, and it was a hype verse. And I remember this got people talking. And the main thing that I remember hearing at the time was people saying that this one verse was going to cause other rappers to step their game up and all this other stuff. And I was like, go ahead with that. This one verse from K Dot is not, no, not K Dot. What I'm talking about. This verse from Kendrick is not going to allow people to step their game up. And as you can see in present day 2024, or even a year after that, did that happen? No, it didn't, because much like a lot of stuff around that time, and even now, that one verse was hot for all of 1 week, and people just went on about their business. It was not even a topic of discussion anymore. And quite frankly, I don't even think people will remember that. But I think my article, as a matter of fact, let me bring that up now because it was another part of that article that I made some comments on. Let me see. Let me see. Give me 1 second. I would. Hmm, yeah, I'm gonna just put the link in the description box. I'm not gonna read it verbatim. Let me see. Yeah, and there was one point when somebody around that time, when talking about this verse, somebody tried to compare that verse to Tupac's "Hit 'Em Up," and like I said in my article, Kendrick was name dropping in that song, but he didn't do that on the level that Tupac did it and "Hit 'Em Up," and they're both two totally different songs. Tupac's contribution was vicious, it was scathing, it was controversial, and it was personal. But that was those were not two in the same. Though, I mean, you could not do a comparison like that at all. And I just took a look at my Medium page. So yeah, I did have some brief thoughts on that Good Kid, Mad City album. So I'm going to include that in the description box. So I'm gonna have at least 4 or 5 links in the description, which y'all can link to, my thoughts from the past and bring them to a 2024 lens, if that makes sense. So yeah, so like I said, that verse was the hot thing at the moment. But like I said, by the next week, it was on nobody's radar. Nobody's. And like I said, I guarantee you most fans probably don't even remember that verse. And since then, anything that he's dropped after the fact, I was just not interested. I just wasn't. And now when I think about it, um, that brief review of Good Kid, Mad City, I did do that when my older blog was still new. So that was around the time when I did buy that album. So yes, that does make sense that that was the only time that I listened to it, because since then I haven't had the urge or the desire to revisit it. But like I said, we're gonna see what's gonna go on in these comments and see if anybody says, yeah, after a while you should definitely go back and check it out. But we'll see. And like I said, one more again, old school, one more again. Good Kid, Mad City was not and still is not the new Illmatic. To Pimp a Butterfly is not the new It Was Written. Okay, let's make that clear. So, with all this being said, to bring everything full circle, the hip hop battle. Yeah, let's just focus on that. Not beef, but battle. The hip hop battle is so we're long past the point when battles or battle raps are a thing. We're past that point because hip hop itself, there's no competitive edge here, none. And if what Kendrick Lamar and Drake is trying to do, it's not working, because there's nothing here that suggests that either one of those guys are like trying to be the best, trying to be the best MC. Now, I'm not going to buy that, because as far as I'm concerned, Nas is the best. Nas may not be on the radio like that. Nas may not be on TV like that. But as far as his body of work since King's Disease, he's the best in the business, and there's no comparisons here. Kendrick Lamar and Drake in the intern may be able to move a little more units, may be able to engage social media more, but I don't care about that, you know. So like I said, there's nothing to suggest that their beef has anything to do with them being the best in hip hop, the best MC, the best on the mic. I don't get that. And when you add in the Rick Ross factor and even the J. Cole factor, there's nothing here to suggest that, to me at least, that we're about to enter a new wave of hip hop where we're going back to the battle. No, not quite. Are they capable? I mean, yes. But can anybody realistically tell me that all of this, you know, came up naturally? Can anybody really tell me that? Help me understand. Let me know something. Let me know if I'm looking at it from a traditional old school head lens or whatever. Just let me know. I'm open-minded here, but I'm just not saying that. Hip hop hasn't had a competitive edge since the prime of G Unit. And we're talking about at least 20 years. Because at least at that point, you had a lot of factions and groups and stuff like that. Yeah, on the surface, you still had nonsense out there, but there still was a competitive edge of people wanting to be the best. And we haven't seen a competitive edge in hip hop in years. And quite frankly, we're never going to have a competitive edge again, because this crop of artists, and yeah, and to be fair, Kendrick, Ross, J. Cole, and Drake this season, I'll give them that. But we're long past the days where we're going to get that competitive edge in the music. And if what they're trying to do in this social media age, I'm not buying it. I'm just not. Now, like I said, I'm not interested in the beef. I'm not interested in any of the diss songs that come out. I'm just not, because it's not appealing to me. But like I said, I'm open-minded. So if there's something that you all would like me to check out, or if there's something you all would recommend that I check out, let me know. And not only will I check it out, but I may come back and do a video on that as well. You know, so I just want to say that. So at the end of the day, they're all going to keep doing their thing. God bless them. The Rick Ross element is kind of lame. You know, so we'll just see what happens. But like I said, I just hope that nobody is trying to champion this and see if, okay, are we about to enter a new wave of battling, or is this? And please don't even get me started with, okay, I don't want to hear this is going to change the game. It's not. I don't want to hear we about to enter a new era of the battle. I don't want to hear that. I definitely don't want to hear this is going to cause other artists to step their game up. I mean, come on. No, we are long past that point. Look, if Nas and any other established artists that still doing their thing and still have the respect and admiration of the fans, if the likes of Nas and others can't get other artists to step their game up, what makes you think Kendrick Lamar and Drake, and to a certain extent, Rick Ross and J. Cole is going to do it? That's my thing. So, like I said, y'all, we'll see what's going to happen from here, and I would guess that probably within the next week, is anybody going to be talking about this Kendrick Lamar and Drake thing? Is anybody going to be talking about the Rick Ross Drake element? I mean, really, is anybody going to be talking about this? If we go into mid-May and we're still talking about this, I'll be real surprised. Real surprised. So y'all, that brings me to the end of this video. I didn't plan to do this one today, but after looking at some YouTube clips today, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna talk about this one and just give some extended thoughts. And I didn't bring Lil Wayne back because I just stopped midway and just made some comments on him. But other than that, I mean, first off, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on this video. Let me know what you think about the Kendrick Lamar Drake quote unquote battle. Let me know what you think about J. Cole role. Let me know what you think about the Rick Ross Drake thing. And let me know what you think about the hip hop battles overall, over the years. And definitely, if you get the time to check out the links that I'm going to put in the description box, let me know. I feel like this will be a real good discussion, especially for those who are subscribed to my channel. Shout out to y'all who are hip hop fans just like me, especially long time hip hop fans that come from a time when, it was about your style on the mic and what you could do on the mic and stuff like that. It was about the content as opposed to anything else. So just let me know. I feel as though we can have a real good discussion here. So in addition to that, again, if you like what you heard and you're ready to become part of Team Discipline, go ahead and hit the like button. And like I mentioned earlier, drop some comments if you're feeling the content, as well as letting me know your thoughts on everything that I mentioned. And last but not least, hit the subscribe button along with the bell so you're notified when I drop new videos. And until next time, my people, take care of yourselves and remember, the power of the mind is valuable.